What the camera captured that Tuesday morning changed everything they believed about their dog. The Nguyen family, David, 37, and May, 34, had been arguing about Bear for 3 weeks. Bear was their 2-year-old Great Pyrenees, 114 pounds of white fur and deliberate movement, adopted from a breed rescue when he was 4 months old. The argument was simple. Bear had started climbing into the bassinet, not approaching the bassinet, not sniffing the bassinet, 114 pounds of Great Pyrenees placing his front paws on the frame, lifting his massive body upward, and dropping his head inside the sleeping space where their 3-week-old daughter, Rosie, slept. May wanted Bear out of the nursery. Permanently. He's going to suffocate her. He's going to crush her. He weighs more than I do. David wanted to understand why. Bear had never shown this behavior before Rosie was born. He had been gentle around the bassinet for the first week, sniffing politely, then returning to his bed. The climbing started on day 8. It escalated every day after that. By day 21, Bear was attempting to get into the bassinet every time Rosie was placed in it. He did not attempt it when the bassinet was empty, only when Rosie was inside. David installed a camera above the bassinet on Tuesday morning, a small wireless unit with night vision, motion detection, and cloud recording. He told May he wanted evidence, footage of exactly what Bear was doing, so they could show it to the veterinary behaviorist and get a professional assessment. May agreed, but she also said that if the footage showed Bear putting weight on the bassinet frame with Rosie inside, the dog was going to her mother's house in Sacramento. The first recording triggered at 11:47 p.m. David and May were asleep in the master bedroom, 2 doors down from the nursery. The nursery door was open. Bear's bed was in the hallway. The footage showed the following. 11:47 and 3 seconds. Bear rises from his bed. He does not stretch. He does not yawn. He simply stands and walks into the nursery with the direct purpose of an animal responding to a stimulus. 11:47 and 14 seconds. Bear approaches the bassinet. He rises on his hind legs and hooks his front paws over the padded rail. The bassinet frame creaks but holds. It is rated for vibrations but not for a 100-pound dog. 11:47 and 19 seconds. Bear extends his neck. His nose enters the bassinet. He positions his face directly above Rosie's face, specifically above her mouth and nose, and holds it there. He holds it there for 38 seconds. During those 38 seconds, Bear's nostrils cycle in the rapid burst pattern that David had seen before, but never timed. 3 quick inhales, a pause, 3 more. His ears are rotated forward. His eyes are partially closed. His body is completely still, except for the rhythmic expansion and contraction of his rib cage. At 12 minutes and 5 seconds, Bear lowers himself from the bassinet, walks to his bed, circles once, and lies down. At 12:51 a.m., he does it again. Same sequence, same duration, same nostril pattern. At 1:33 a.m., again. At 2:09 a.m., again. David watched the footage the next morning at 6:15, standing in the kitchen in his boxers, his phone 3 inches from his face. He watched all 4 events. Then he watched them again. Then he called Dr. Nina Petrov, the veterinary behaviorist, and he used a word he had never used in a phone call with a professional before. He said, "Please." Dr. Petrov reviewed the footage remotely. She called David back in 40 minutes. "David, how is Rosie's breathing at night? Have you noticed any irregularities? Any pauses?" David had not. He was a new father. He checked on Rosie constantly. She was breathing every time he checked. She seemed fine. I want you to take Rosie to your pediatrician today. I want you to request a sleep study referral. Tell them the dog is performing repetitive olfactory monitoring of the infant's breathing at regular intervals during sleep. David called the pediatrician. He got an appointment for 2 p.m. He said the words, "Veterinary behaviorist recommends sleep study." And the receptionist paused, then said, "Let me check with the doctor." Ruben Castillo examined Rosie. She was healthy. Her weight was appropriate. Her oxygen saturation was 97. Her breathing was regular at 32 breaths per minute. But Dr. Castillo agreed to the sleep study, not because of the dog, he said this explicitly, but because periodic breathing irregularities in neonates under 6 weeks are a legitimate medical concern, and the sleep study was a non-invasive screening tool. If this story moved you, subscribe. The next one will leave you speechless. The sleep study was conducted 3 days later at University Children's Hospital. Rosie spent one night connected to sensors measuring brain activity, heart rate, breathing patterns, blood oxygen, and chest wall movement. The results came back in 4 days. Dr. Elena Marchetti, the pediatric sleep specialist, called David and May together for a video consultation. Rosie has periodic breathing with intermittent central apnea events during deep sleep, Dr. Marchetti said. She's experiencing pauses in breathing, 5 to 8 seconds each, approximately every 30 to 45 minutes. Her oxygen saturation dips to 91% during these events before spontaneous recovery. David felt the room tilt. What does that mean? It means her brain's respiratory drive is immature, which is expected in some neonates, but the frequency and duration of her apneic events are at the upper threshold of what we consider benign. We're going to prescribe a home apnea monitor and schedule a follow-up study at 8 weeks. Most infants outgrow this by 3 months, but we want to monitor. May was already crying. Not from fear, from recognition. She had been right that something was wrong. She had just identified the wrong threat. She had blamed the dog. The dog had been the diagnosis. Bear had been timing his bassinet visits to coincide with Rosie's apneic events. The intervals between his checks, 44 minutes, 51 minutes, 36 minutes, 40 minutes, matched the intervals between Rosie's breathing pauses within a margin of 4 to 11 minutes. He was detecting the chemical change in Rosie's exhaled air during the apneic recovery phase, the brief spike in carbon dioxide, and the corresponding shift in volatile organic compounds that occurred when her breathing resumed after a pause. And he was checking to make sure it resumed. Every guardian deserves recognition, even the ones who walk on 4 legs. Hit subscribe. Dr. Petrov, when David shared the sleep study results, sent him a research paper published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior, documenting similar cases. 3 documented instances of untrained domestic dogs exhibiting monitoring behavior in response to infant apnea. All 3 involved large breed dogs with strong bonding instincts: a Newfoundland, a Bernese Mountain Dog, and a Leonberger Bear. Was a Great Pyrenees. The breed was developed over centuries to guard livestock through the night in the Pyrenees Mountains. Sitting in darkness for hours, monitoring breathing patterns and movement across a flock, detecting subtle changes that indicated a lamb in distress. He was doing what his breed had been designed to do for 1,000 years. He had simply transferred the behavior from a flock to a baby. The apnea monitor was installed that evening. A small sensor clipped to Rosie's diaper, connected to a base unit that alarmed if breathing paused for more than 15 seconds. Bear sniffed the sensor once. He sniffed the base unit once. Then he walked to the bassinet, rose on his hind legs, checked Rosie's breathing one more time, and lay down on his bed. The monitor alarmed twice in the first week. Both times, Rosie's breathing resumed spontaneously before David or May reached the nursery. Both times, Bear was already standing at the bassinet. We share these stories because the world needs to see them. Subscribe to be part of that. By 12 weeks, Rosie's breathing patterns had normalized. The apnea events had stopped. The follow-up sleep study showed 0 pauses longer than 3 seconds. Dr. Marchetti cleared Rosie and discontinued the home monitor. The night the monitor was removed, David and May lay in bed and listened. The house was quiet. No beeping, no alarms, just the soft ambient sounds of a sleeping house. At 11:52 p.m., they heard Bear rise from his bed. They heard his nails on the hardwood. They heard the creak of the bassinet frame. David reached for May's hand. "He's still checking," May whispered. "He's still checking." They lay in the dark and listened to the sound of a 114-pound guardian rising on his hind legs, placing his nose inside a bassinet, and breathing in the scent of a sleeping baby. 38 seconds. Then the creak of the frame releasing. Then the click of nails. Then silence. The next story involves a family who were told their cat was jealous of the new baby. The cat wasn't jealous. The cat was counting.